All right, so as we just reported moments ago, sources are telling me tonight the FBI has, in fact, completed their background check on Judge Kavanaugh. All 100 senators and 9 staff members will have access to that report, which will be kept in a safe at the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, this comes as the chairman of that committee, Chuck Grassley, is sounding the alarm about obstruction coming from Professor Ford's extremely bitterly partisan legal team. Now, this week, we told you about this, the Judiciary Committee requested access to material evidence of Professor Ford's sexual misconduct claims, including notes from her therapy sessions that she already had handed over to the Washington Post, any recordings of her polygraph test, and Professor Ford's attorney are flatly denying the Senate Judiciary's request. So much for a real investigation. And tonight, in a letter, Grassley fired back. He wrote, quote, "The Constitution tasks the Senate, not the media or the FBI, with providing advice and consent for Supreme Court nominees. It is beyond disappointing that Dr. Ford's attorneys were willing to share evidence with the Washington Post many weeks ago, but to this day refused to share the same evidence which Dr. Ford relied on in her testimony with the U.S. Senate. It's important to remember that Ford's attorney, Deborah Katz, as you see on the screen, she is a far-left, huge, big-time Democratic donor. Remember, she was the one that was recommended by Dianne Feinstein, who wouldn't tell the Republicans about the whole issue for weeks and weeks after, till weeks after, and once vowed to resist Donald Trump. We've shown you that tape on ABC. Katz has not been cooperative with the committee from the very beginning, stalling whenever and however possible. And according to Professor Ford's sworn testimony, her attorneys never even released numerous and persistent attempts from Senator Grassley and Republicans to arrange an interview with Senate Judiciary investigators. Deborah Katz is not to be trusted. Her motivations, again, recommended by Dianne Feinstein, have long been political, including multiple instances where she defended Bill Clinton and creepy Al Franken from their misconduct allegations. She even made light twice of Paula Jones' accusations against Clinton, saying that Jones, she suffered no repercussions in the workplace because the incident only lasted 10 to 12 minutes. He exposed himself in front of Paula Jones, and he wanted a sexual favor. I thought Dianne Feinstein recommended a lawyer, thought this woman was supposed to be a champion of women's rights. It appears that's only true for Democratic women. And meanwhile, Professor Ford is facing some allegations of her own. In a written declaration to the U.S. Senate, a man who was Professor Ford's longtime boyfriend between 1992 and 98 is raising serious issues about her testimony tonight. During the hearing, Ford claimed to have issues with confined spaces, riding in airplanes, homes with only one door because of PTSD symptoms surrounding her alleged sexual assault. According to her former boyfriend, whose name has been redacted, Ford never expressed these issues with small spaces. She frequently flew in airplanes to and from Hawaii, lived in a small 500-square-foot apartment with only one door, never mentioned anything about being assaulted. He also claimed that Ford once counseled a friend on how to pass a polygraph test prior to a job interview with the FBI. Claim that friend is denying. Now, remember, during Ford's testimony, she emphasized her total inexperience with polygraphs. And naturally, ABC, CBS, well, they totally ignored the story during their morning coverage. That is called bias of omission. Shouldn't shock us. Now, meanwhile, in case of just plain bias, the Daily Caller is reporting that 3 different NBC News stories on Judge Kavanaugh, 3 of them, face huge accuracy issues. By the way, Andy Lack, Tom Brokaw, are you proud of your network? Tom Brokaw, the brand you spent a lifetime building. Are you happy now to be an arm of the Democratic Party? And as you can see, the left does not care about evidence, due process, presumption of innocence, the Constitution, none of it. They don't even care what this impending FBI report will uncover or not uncover. Dianne Feinstein doesn't want to even show it to you. Almost all Democrats have been against Brett Kavanaugh or whoever the president would have chosen from day one. They're only now pretending to care about allegations against Kavanaugh because they want to still stall the confirmation vote. To them, sadly, this is about power and political gamesmanship. Whether or not Kavanaugh is guilty, it makes no difference in the Democrats in this pursuit of power. Something, by the way, even Spartacus himself, Senator Cory Booker, admitted to during a recent interview. Let's take a look.
So my hope is that just beyond the vicious partisan rancor that is going on, beyond the accusations, we don't lose sight of what this moral moment is about in this country. And ultimately ask ourselves the question, is this the right person to sit on the highest court in the land for a lifetime appointment? Ultimately, not whether he's innocent or guilty, this is not a trial, but ultimately, have enough questions be raised that we should not move on to another candidate.
If enough questions are raised, well, you can't get on the court? Is that now the new modern Democratic Party? Guilty as long as there's enough accusations. Guilty of all charges, regardless of what the evidence shows. This is so reckless. Think of where this can take us. And if what Cory Booker said is the new standard, well, guess what, Spartacus? You shouldn't even be a senator based on your own standards and your own words. Remember, you once bragged about your own sexual assault as a young man, writing about groping a woman in high school, even after she said no and pushed you away? Bye-bye, Spartacus. I guess it's time for you to leave the U.S. Senate in shame. Now, that's why we call them the party of smears. This is why I keep bringing up the idea of slander and lies and character assassination and family bludgeoning, all for political power, over and sacrificing the rule of law and justice, things we should all hold deeply, that should not be political. As we speak, they're doing anything and everything to stall, scared Senator Jeff Snowflake and others into voting against Kavanaugh's nomination. They're now moving the bar as much as they can. Well, maybe it's about temperament, not about what the FBI says. And now, as we predicted, their new talking point is the current FBI inquiry is being rushed. Oh, we don't trust the FBI? This despite absolutely no request from the FBI that more time is needed at all. It's all about delay. Now we're going to talk about temperament. Then we're going to talk about, well, maybe he didn't tell us exactly how much he drank, even though he said he drank a lot of beer and still drinks beer and sometimes drank too much beer. Watch this.
I trust the FBI. I hope they have the latitude, the time, in order to get the job done right.
The Republicans held up a seat when Justice Scalia passed away for nearly a year. So there is no reason to ram this through. There should be a full investigation of all of the allegations that have been raised and whatever other witnesses follow on as a result of the discussion or the interviews of those witnesses.
The Senate should allow the FBI to pursue all the evidence and not to cap where they may go or put a leash on the investigation.
The FBI is very close to wrapping its investigation. In fact, it could wrap as early as today. Does that strike you as sufficient time, or does that feel rushed?
That would concern me.
No, more time. We want more time. Let's change the topic. Let's talk about something else. Let's investigate this or that. Last-minute investigations. So yet, in another last-ditch effort to smear Judge Kavanaugh, destroy his family, Senate Democrats are demanding the Senate Judiciary Committee retract the following tweet, quote, "Nowhere in any of these 6 FBI reports, which the committee has reviewed on a bipartisan basis, was there ever a whiff of any issue at all related in any way to inappropriate sexual behavior or alcohol abuse." Senate Democrats revealed zero evidence over why that tweet should be redacted. And the Senate Judiciary Committee fired back, quote, "Nothing in the tweet is inaccurate or misleading. The committee stands by its statement, which is completely truthful." More baseless innuendo, more false smears from Senate Democrats. As you can see, the Democratic Party, they are the smear machine, now in full gear and a full panic. They don't want this vote. It's really despicable to watch. Think about what this means for your kids and your grandkids and the future of this country. Guilt by accusation. Enough accusations, you're done. Now, that is why they are flailing. And there's all these questions now. Oh, let's talk about his temperament. Forget the FBI report we demanded. How is someone accused? Get this. Think of this yourself. You're accused of systematically, regularly drugging young teenage girls, being involved in, well, frequent gang raping of young teenage girls. What is the proper reaction? What should the temperament be of somebody if you're falsely accused? What would you expect them to say very quietly, I'm innocent? Or do you think they would have such indignation, righteous indignation, anger, and outrage that they want to make it as clear as possible they're innocent? I think the latter is how most people would probably react. And the far-left mob, they're in overdrive. Remember, Maxine Waters, get in their faces. Well, guess what, Maxine? It's happening. Breaking tonight, a congressional intern for Democrat Sheila Jackson Lee has been arrested after he publicly posted sensitive information of pro-Kavanaugh Republican senators online. This is extraordinarily dangerous. And over the weekend, we saw Senator Mitch McConnell accosted in an airport after Ted Cruz, after Pam Bondi, after Secretary Nielsen, after, Sarah Sanders. Yesterday, a Republican congressman was actually assaulted in his Capitol Hill office by an angry group of protesters who pushed in his door. In Texas, another angry mob confronting a group of pro-Kavanaugh students at UT Austin. Take a look at this.
Victory! We support rapists! Tell me what was the point of the yes! Kavanaugh!
Have a dialogue with them. They're just here to prosecute. They're just here to prosecute. And you can't we believe survivors. They won't even bring we believe survivors. So how is that? We believe survivors. We believe survivors. Who I believe the candidates don't change my name. Oh. It's pretty violent.
You want this kind of behavior rewarded? What do you think the outcome is? It'll be more and more radicalism, more and more allegations, make enough of them, and you get your way. Basically mob rule, no law and order. Now, do you care about due process and the presumption of innocence? Because those three Republicans, we have, of course, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Jeff Snowflake. You're the ones that are going to decide, because if you go along with this after you got what you wanted, this is what your future and our future as a country will be. Now, Republicans won an election. We had a president that actually gave the names of the people he would consider appointing to the Supreme Court, and he won. People want originalists, constitutionalists confirmed for the Supreme Court. That's what they voted for. Look at this Fox News poll that just came out. The answer is yes. Republicans are now making gains in top Senate races all across the country, and Republican enthusiasm has now increased significantly. Look at your screen. Now, these are the people who will decide the fate of Judge Kavanaugh, the future of the country. You want to call these people? Feel free to do so. Call their office, call the hotline, call the main line. I'd urge you to be polite. I think that's respectful of the office. 34 days from tonight, and we'll know the results of the midterms. Those 5 senators, they choose to go along, move the bar, stop Kavanaugh because of what are uncorroborated allegations in every case. No evidence in every case. You know what's going to happen. They vote against Kavanaugh, and guess what? They're up for re-election vote, and you can vote them out. This is about whether or not we want to live in a country, the United States of America, where smears are rewarded. An America where we accept character assassination on a regular basis, where we have no problem destroying political lives with no evidence, no corroboration, and it can happen to you. An America where we throw out all due process out the window. We're willing to reward this behavior. And if Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Jeff Snowflake, if they try and make this about anything other than what they asked for, a limited FBI report that is now complete, I will say they have zero character or honor themselves. And they will be responsible as this happens again and again and again. Because the Democrats, they don't have a plan. Listen to any of them. What are they saying that they will do to improve the country? All you get from the Democrats is we know they want to impeach 45. They want impeachment. They want endless investigations into Trump and even Kavanaugh. If he gets on the court, they want to impeach him. They want their crumbs back. They want higher taxes. They want to get rid of ICE. They want open borders. They want leftist judges that legislate from the bench. They want Obamacare. How's that working out for you? That's their agenda in 34 nights. You head to the polls. You get to vote in House races. Take a look on your screen. See if that's your district, because if it is, it matters. And ask yourself one question. Is America better off than we were 2 years ago? You know, when you vote one of these Senate races that you see on your screen, take note, from the economy to security and national security and trade deals and eliminating burdensome regulation, the biggest tax cut in history, and all of these things. Well, that's all going to come to a halt if Republicans lose in November. You don't vote, you will get the government you deserve. And if these lawmakers give into this tactics, it'll happen again and again and again. You will be rewarding reckless, irresponsible, absolutely outrageous behavior and character assassination. You want to be a part of that? You choose in 34 days.